Welcome to my channel, Lobby 22. Hold on, because it's going to be something incredible. David Miller, 42, thought he had it all. A software engineer in Seattle's bustling tech scene, he lived in a cozy suburban home with his wife, Sarah, 40, a sharp marketing exec, and their two kids, Emma and Liam. Their life was a Pacific Northwest postcard. Weekend hikes in the Cascades, pizza nights with board games, and a love that seemed unbreakable after 15 years. But lately, Sarah was distant, her eyes glued to her phone, her excuses piling up. Late nights at work, client dinners that stretched past midnight. David, ever the optimist, chalked it up to her high-pressure job. She's just stressed, he told himself, ignoring the gnawing doubt. One rainy Tuesday, that doubt became a knife. While syncing their family tablet for Emma's homework, David stumbled across a string of texts Sarah forgot to delete. Flirty, intimate messages from Ethan Work, her charming coworker. Last night was unreal, one read. Can't wait to see you again. David's stomach churned. His hands shook as he scrolled, each word slicing deeper. Sarah had been lying for months, maybe longer. He sat frozen in their quiet living room. The kids' laughter from upstairs a cruel contrast to the betrayal burning in his chest. That night, David confronted her. Sarah's face crumpled as she admitted to a 6-month affair with Ethan, a married colleague with a flashy smile and a failing startup. It was a mistake, she sobbed, clutching his arm. I was lost, David. I love you. I'll end it. Her tears seemed real, but her excuses, work stress, feeling unappreciated, felt hollow. David's trust, built over years, shattered like glass. He thought of Emma and Liam, their innocent faces, and knew he couldn't stay in a house built on lies. I need space, he said, voice steady despite the ache. By morning, he'd packed a bag and moved to a small apartment, vowing to protect the kids from the fallout. Sarah begged him to reconsider, flooding his phone with apologies. David, heartbroken but resolute, focused on Emma and Liam. He kept their routines normal: school drop-offs, soccer practice, while grappling with sleepless nights. Friends urged him to forgive, citing Sarah's remorse, but David couldn't unsee those texts. Then came the first twist. His lawyer, combing through their finances, uncovered something chilling. Sarah had funneled thousands from their joint savings into Ethan's startup, hiding it behind business expenses. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial. David's grief hardened into determination. He wouldn't let Sarah's lies destroy their kids' future. Armed with bank records, David filed for divorce, seeking primary custody and a fair settlement. Sarah, cornered, agreed to terms but pushed for spousal support, claiming emotional distress. In court, David's evidence painted a damning picture. Sarah's secret transfers, her reckless investment in Ethan's doomed venture. The judge, unimpressed by her tears, awarded David custody and denied her alimony. Sarah's face fell, her charm useless against the truth. David walked out, heart heavy but head high, knowing he'd fought for his family. Yet, as he drove home, a text from Sarah lit up his phone. You'll regret this. The words hung like a storm cloud, hinting at trouble yet to come. David Miller stood outside the Seattle courthouse, rain drumming on his umbrella, his heart a mix of resolve and raw pain. At 42, he'd never imagined divorce, let alone a battle to protect his kids, Emma and Liam, from their mother's betrayal. Sarah, his wife of 15 years, had admitted to a 6-month affair with her coworker Ethan, a slick-talking exec whose startup was bleeding cash. Worse, David's lawyer had uncovered Sarah's secret. She'd siphoned thousands from their savings to prop up Ethan's failing venture, hiding it as consulting fees. The sting of her lies, emotional and financial, fueled David's fight for justice. Inside, the courtroom was sterile, but the tension was electric. Sarah sat across from David, her eyes red but defiant, flanked by her lawyer. She'd agreed to the divorce but demanded spousal support, painting herself as a victim of emotional neglect. David's lawyer, Karen, a no-nonsense veteran, presented the bank records. Mrs. Miller transferred $45,000 to an account linked to Ethan Caldwell's startup, Karen said, her voice cutting through Sarah's crocodile tears. These were marital assets, moved without Mr. Miller's consent. The judge, a stern woman with gray streaks, frowned as she flipped through the evidence. Sarah's lawyer stammered, claiming it was a loan. But the paper trail was damning. David's chest tightened as he glanced at Sarah. She'd been his partner, his confidant, the woman who'd laughed with him over late-night coffee. Now she was a stranger, her betrayal laid bare. The judge's ruling came swiftly. David got primary custody of Emma and Liam, with Sarah granted weekend visits. Spousal support was denied, citing her financial misconduct. Sarah's face crumpled, but David felt no triumph, only a hollow ache for the life they'd lost. As he left, Sarah grabbed his arm. "You didn't have to humiliate me," she hissed. David pulled away, her words echoing her earlier text, "You'll regret this." Back at his modest apartment, David threw himself into fatherhood. He helped Emma with her science project, a model volcano that erupted with baking soda fizz, and cheered Liam at soccer, his small frame darting across the field. But Sarah's threat lingered. Late one night, Karen called with a bombshell. "We dug deeper," she said. "Sarah didn't just fund Ethan's startup, she's listed as a co-owner. If it folds, she's liable for its debts." David's jaw dropped. Sarah had gambled their future on Ethan's pipe dream, and now she faced ruin. The twist sparked a flicker of pity, but David pushed it aside. His kids came first. Weeks later, Sarah's desperation surfaced. She texted David, her tone softer, "Can we talk? I'm sorry for everything." Against his better judgment, he met her at a quiet cafe near Pike Place Market. Sarah looked worn, her designer blazer replaced by a faded sweater. "I ended things with Ethan," she said, eyes downcast. "I was wrong. I want to fix this for the kids." David studied her, searching for sincerity, but her words felt rehearsed. He mentioned his new relationship with Rachel, a pediatric nurse who'd brought warmth back into his life. Sarah's face hardened. "Already?" she snapped, her voice cracking. "You're moving on while I'm drowning?" She stormed out, leaving David uneasy. The next day, a new twist blindsided him. Emma came home from school, her eyes puffy. "Mom told my teacher you're keeping us from her," she whispered. Sarah had spread rumors at the kids' school, claiming David was alienating her. Fury surged, but David stayed calm for Emma's sake. He hugged her, promising, "I'll fix this." Rachel, steady and kind, urged him to document everything. "She's hurting, but she can't drag you down," Rachel said. David nodded, realizing Sarah's regret was a mask for control. Then came the game-changer. Karen uncovered a hidden email on Sarah's work account, accidentally forwarded to David during their marriage. It detailed a plan. Sarah and Ethan had intended to sell the startup to a shady investor, pocketing the cash before it collapsed. The scheme was unraveling, but Sarah was still entangled. David faced a choice: expose her and risk escalation, or protect his kids and let the law take its course. As he tucked Liam into bed, his son's sleepy smile steeled his resolve. Sarah's lies had broken their family, but David wouldn't let them break him. David Miller sat at his kitchen table, the Seattle skyline dim through the rain-streaked window. At 42, he'd faced betrayal before. Sarah's 6-month affair with her coworker Ethan had shattered their 15-year marriage, but now her lies were hurting their kids. Emma, 12, had come home crying after Sarah spread rumors at school, claiming David was blocking her from seeing the kids. The sting of Sarah's manipulation was worse than the affair itself. David's lawyer, Karen, had just dropped a bombshell. Sarah was co-owner of Ethan's failing startup, liable for its debts. Worse, an email revealed their plan to sell the company to a shady investor, pocketing cash before it collapsed. David held the key to exposing Sarah, but at what cost to Emma and Liam? He tucked the kids into bed, Liam's sleepy "love you, Dad" grounding him. Rachel, his new girlfriend, a pediatric nurse with a warm smile, sat with him afterward. "You're doing right by them," she said, her hand on his. Rachel's steadiness was a lifeline, but David felt the weight of Sarah's threat. "You'll regret this." He documented her school rumors, emailing the principal to clarify he supported Sarah's visitation rights. Still, doubt gnawed at him. Was Sarah lashing out in pain, or was this a calculated move? The next morning, a new twist hit like a thunderbolt. Karen called, her voice urgent. Ethan's startup just filed for bankruptcy, and Sarah's name is on the creditor list. She's facing a $100,000 debt claim. David's mind raced. Sarah's gamble on Ethan had backfired spectacularly, but she'd hidden it from everyone. Karen added, "There's more. Ethan's trying to pin the shady deal on Sarah, claiming she forged documents." David's anger flared. Sarah had been reckless, but Ethan's betrayal of her felt like a twisted justice. He faced a dilemma: report the email to authorities, risking Sarah's financial ruin, or stay silent to shield the kids from more drama. At soccer practice, Liam scored a goal, his grin lighting up the field. David cheered, but his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah: "We need to talk. Now." Against Rachel's advice, he met Sarah at a park near their old home. She looked frantic, her eyes darting. "Ethan's lying about me," she said. "He's saying I faked the deal to save himself. I'm broke, David. Help me for the kids." Her plea tugged at his heart, but her track record of lies held him back. "You spread rumors about me," he said, voice low. "You hurt Emma." Sarah's face fell. "I was desperate," she whispered. "I thought you'd come back if you saw me struggling." The admission stunned David. Her sabotage was a ploy to manipulate him. Then came the gut punch. Emma, who joined them at the park, overheard Sarah. "You lied about Dad?" she asked, voice trembling. Sarah froze, unable to answer. David knelt beside Emma. "Your mom's hurting, but we'll get through this," he said. Emma nodded, but her trust in Sarah was shaken. David walked away, Emma's hand in his, Sarah's sobs fading behind them. That night, Rachel helped Emma process her feelings, her gentle questions easing the girl's pain. David realized Rachel wasn't just his partner, she was a rock for his kids. The next day, David made a bold move. He sent Karen the email but asked her to hold off on reporting it. Instead, he contacted Ethan's ex-wife, Lauren, whom he'd met through a mutual friend. Lauren, a savvy accountant, had her own score to settle with Ethan, who drained her savings during their marriage. Over coffee, she revealed Ethan's history of fraud. "He's done this before," she said, pulling out old bank statements. "I can help you nail him, legally." David saw a path forward: expose Ethan's crimes without dragging Sarah deeper, protecting the kids from collateral damage. But Sarah wasn't done. A late-night voicemail chilled him: "If you go after Ethan, I'll tell the kids you ruined me." The threat was a desperate bluff, but it raised the stakes. David stared at Liam's soccer trophy, Emma's volcano model, symbols of the life he was fighting for. He wouldn't let Sarah's chaos win. With Lauren's help, he prepared to turn the tables, setting the stage for a legal showdown that would test his resolve and reveal just how far Sarah would go to save herself. David Miller gripped his coffee mug, the Seattle rain a steady hum outside his apartment. At 42, he'd weathered Sarah's affair with her coworker Ethan, her secret funneling of their savings into his failing startup, and her lies that hurt their kids, Emma and Liam. Now Sarah's desperate voicemail, threatening to tell the kids he ruined her, echoed in his mind. David's lawyer, Karen, held an email proving Sarah and Ethan planned to sell the startup to a shady investor, but Ethan was pinning the fraud on Sarah, leaving her liable for $100,000 in debts. David's new ally, Lauren, Ethan's ex-wife, offered a way to expose Ethan legally, but Sarah's threat loomed. One wrong move could shatter Emma and Liam's fragile stability. David met Lauren at a downtown cafe, her sharp eyes scanning old bank statements. "Ethan's done this before," she said, pointing to transactions from their marriage. "He faked signatures, shifted debts. I've got proof." David's pulse quickened. Lauren's evidence could sink Ethan without dragging Sarah deeper, sparing the kids more pain. "We'll tip off the bankruptcy trustee," Lauren suggested. "Let the law handle him." David nodded, but Sarah's threat gnawed at him. He sent Karen the plan, asking her to prepare a fraud report anonymously. He wouldn't let Ethan's lies or Sarah's desperation destroy his family. At home, David kept things normal for the kids. He helped Emma tweak her volcano model, her laughter a bomb, and took Liam to soccer, cheering his every kick. Rachel, his girlfriend, joined them for pizza night, her ease with the kids warming David's heart. But trouble brewed. The school principal emailed. Sarah had called, claiming David was unstable and shouldn't have custody. Fury surged, but Rachel calmed him. "She's scared," she said. "Don't stoop to her level." David documented the call, his resolve hardening. Sarah's lies were unraveling, but she was fighting dirty. Then came the twist that changed everything. Karen called, her voice tense. The trustee's investigating Ethan's startup, but Sarah's fighting back. "She's hired a new lawyer and claims you coerced her into the startup deal." David's stomach dropped. Sarah was spinning a wild story, accusing him of financial abuse to dodge her debts. The lie was absurd. David had proof of her transfers, but it was a desperate jab that could muddy the custody fight. Karen added, her lawyers pushing for a deposition. "Ethan's testifying tomorrow." David saw the trap. Sarah and Ethan were turning on each other, but both were gunning for him. The deposition was a pressure cooker. David sat beside Karen in a stark conference room, facing Ethan across the table. Ethan, smug in a cheap suit, spun a tale. Sarah had forged documents, and David had approved the transfers. David's blood boiled, but Karen's steady gaze kept him quiet. Then Lauren's evidence dropped like a bomb. Karen presented Ethan's old bank records showing his pattern of fraud. The trustee's lawyer leaned forward. "Mr. Caldwell, these suggest you orchestrated the deal." Ethan's smirk faltered, his lies crumbling. Sarah, watching via video, went pale. Her accusation against David fell apart as Ethan scrambled to save himself. Outside, David exhaled, the weight lifting. But Sarah wasn't done. She texted, "You've ruined me. The kids will know." David's heart sank. He called her, voice firm. "Stop this, Sarah." "For Emma and Liam." She sobbed, "I'm losing everything." For a moment, David pitied her, the woman he'd loved, now broken by her choices. But Emma's tearful face at the park, hurt by Sarah's lies, steeled him. He hung up, knowing the law would decide her fate. Lauren called with news. The trustee had referred Ethan's case to prosecutors for fraud. Sarah wasn't charged, but her role in the startup left her financially crippled. David shielded the kids, keeping their routines steady: school, soccer, movie nights with Rachel. Emma, sensing the tension, asked, "Is Mom okay?" David hugged her. "She's finding her way," he said, hating the half-truth. As he tucked Liam in, David vowed to end this chaos. Sarah's lies had sparked a fire, but David's truth and Lauren's help would douse it. The final battle loomed, and he was ready. David Miller stood in his Seattle apartment, the morning sun filtering through the blinds. At 42, he'd fought through Sarah's affair with her coworker Ethan, her secret draining of their savings, and her desperate lies that hurt their kids, Emma and Liam. The latest blow, Sarah's false claim that David coerced her into Ethan's shady startup deal, had crumbled in a deposition thanks to evidence from Lauren, Ethan's ex-wife. Ethan faced fraud charges, and Sarah was left with $100,000 in debts from the bankrupt startup. Her final threat, to turn the kids against David, hung heavy, but he was determined to protect Emma and Liam's peace. David's life was finding balance. His girlfriend, Rachel, a pediatric nurse, brought joy to their home. She braided Emma's hair for a school play and helped Liam with soccer drills, her warmth knitting them closer. At work, David's dedication earned him a promotion to lead engineer, a nod to his resilience. But Sarah's chaos lingered. Emma, now 12, asked again, "Is Mom okay?" David hugged her, saying, "She's figuring things out. We've got you." He shielded the kids, but Sarah's voicemail, "The kids will know," echoed like a warning. Then came the final twist. Lauren called, her voice steady. "Ethan's pleading guilty to fraud. Sarah's off the hook legally, but she's broke." Lauren had tipped off prosecutors with her bank records, ensuring Ethan's downfall without implicating Sarah further. David felt a flicker of relief. Sarah's ruin wouldn't help the kids. But her next move stunned him. A letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. Sarah's words were raw. "I was wrong, David. I hurt you and the kids chasing a fantasy. I'm in therapy, working a retail job, trying to rebuild. Thank you for protecting Emma and Liam. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm sorry." The letter shook David. Was it genuine or another ploy? He showed it to Rachel, who read it quietly. "She's hit rock bottom," Rachel said. "This feels real." David wasn't sure. Sarah's lies, spreading rumors at school, accusing him of coercion, had scarred them. Yet her words carried a weight he hadn't expected. He didn't reply but filed the letter away, a reminder of the woman he'd once loved. For the kids' sake, he hoped she meant it. David focused on family. He took Emma and Liam to the Space Needle, their laughter echoing as they snapped selfies. Rachel joined, her playful banter easing Emma's lingering hurt from Sarah's actions. At school, the principal confirmed Sarah had retracted her claims, apologizing for the rumors. David's careful documentation had protected his reputation, ensuring custody remained secure. Liam, now 9, asked to invite Rachel to his birthday. David smiled, seeing his kids heal in a new, stable home. Sarah's life, meanwhile, was a shadow of before. Her retail job barely covered rent, and friends had drifted after her lies surfaced. David heard through a mutual acquaintance that she'd enrolled in a community college program, studying counseling to help others avoid her mistakes. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a start. David felt no joy in her struggles, only closure. He'd fought for his kids, not revenge, and won by living well. One evening, Emma found Sarah's letter in David's desk. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked, eyes searching. David knelt beside her. "I wanted you to remember the good in Mom, not the hurt. She's trying to be better." Emma nodded, hugging him. Liam joined, and Rachel wrapped them all in a group hug, her presence a quiet strength. David realized he'd built something stronger than before, a family rooted in trust. As spring bloomed, David stood at Liam's soccer game, Rachel cheering beside him. Emma waved from the stands, her smile bright. Sarah allowed supervised visits, watched from a distance, her face softer, less haunted. David met her gaze, offering a nod, not forgiveness, but peace. Sarah's choices had cost her, but the law and truth had prevailed. Ethan faced jail, Sarah faced herself, and David had his kids. He'd won not by tearing her down, but by lifting his family up. The game ended with Liam's winning goal, a perfect note to close their story.